Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, with none other than the man, the myth, Pee Wee Herman dancing legend, Karl Bryan. Welcome back to yet another show.
Shoots. Pee Wee Herman passed away, ladies and gentlemen. I'm distraught. My dancing moves. I don't know. I'll have to. He formed my dancing moves, man. So there you go.
Pretty breaking.
Not true, by the way, but it probably wasn't very funny. But anyways,
hey, real quick, we were talking pre-show about chambers and all that sort of thing. Just real quick, I came across this the other day, actually, on the local online news thing. And it was talking about, Karl, that there's actually an event coming up in about 2 months where throughout the entire valley, all the chambers of commerce get together. Actually, it's going to be in Lake Country, just FYI. And you can actually get like a booth there. And I was like, dang, why wouldn't I want to get a booth for not even $150 to have a whole, or if nothing else, for me to just go and see who all has a booth from all these local chambers of commerce. That just came to my mind as you were talking about the chamber and BNI and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, wow, what an incredible opportunity. And are people paying attention to yes, there's the chamber, but are they doing annual events, and how can you be involved in that?
I was just going to say that you've got your ear to the ground, and there's all kinds of different events and trade shows and get-togethers that are going straight over top of the business coach's head, where they're just, again, they're not, you know what I mean? They're not out looking for these types of opportunities and these types of get-togethers. Because you're right, I'd be going to that. I don't know if I'd be like showcasing, but what I would be doing is I'd be going, which by the way would be a really good idea. But for sure, what I'd be doing is going and getting, taking note of all the people that are spending the $150 and getting their own booth. Because why are they writing a $150 check, and why are they there for 3 days or whatever it is? Because they're trying to grow their business. So,
and if it's one thing I learned from you, it's always have really beautiful people working with you. So, Karl, are you available in October?
I'll be back on the beach, bud.
Anywho, on that note, hey, speaking of other recent news, so I'm just seeing more and more. It hasn't happened for me yet on my phone. Twitter is still Twitter for me. It's not X, but I'm seeing more and more people talking about it now. And which, by the way, Threads, that was like a clubhouse, wasn't it? That moment passed. But any further thoughts in terms of the rebrand to X?
I don't, you know what? I think he's murdering, like, it's a top 10 brand in the world, right? Twitter, or I don't know if it's top 10, but it's damn close, right? And he's basically murdering the brand. I think that anybody in their right mind would call that crazy. But that being said, and I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again. I am not in a position to doubt Elon Musk and his marketing prowess. He's you know what I mean? The man is a marketing genius, undeniable. I mean, look, everybody doubted Tesla, Road Dog, right? Most valuable automaker by a long way. Everybody doubted SpaceX. He's going to Mars before NASA. And how long has NASA been at it? And how many, I don't know if it's hundreds of billions of dollars if it's entered. I get no idea the money that NASA has been provided, but the number would be gobsmacking. So, you know what I mean? Like, come on. And everybody's doubting Twitter right now, and they're doubting X. They just can't help themselves, right? Because again, Elon Musk is never, far from top of mind of many business people. So, you know what the good news is, Shoots? That, in my opinion, there, I say capitalism wins, right? Incentives win, by the way, but like capitalism wins. So if, you know, so that, you know what I mean? Capitalism wins. I don't know. That's kind of a exciting thing. And by the way, speaking of capitalism, like if you ever wonder how Elon does so much and does it so well, here's what I see. A little bit of reverse engineering, right? He doesn't manage people. He doesn't direct the company, or certainly not the main driver of his company, more like companies, right? The companies that he owns, he's not the main driver. He's a visionary. He's incredible at seeing the future and kind of seeing around corners. Um, so what he does, he sets a clear, concise target. Ironically enough, we had a big event, virtual business coaching mastery on the weekend. And the beginning of my talk, and I did some homework on it, and this is where it came from, frankly. But he sets a target, and then he creates a framework to help brainstorm and importantly remove obstacles for his staff and say his management team, for them to basically arrive at the company destination. So, okay, in sum, he sets a target, he provides resources, he eliminates obstacles, and the expectation for everybody and the intention is always to just aim at the target and achieve it. You know what I mean? So hopefully that's landing, right? Like he is not in there managing people. He's not in there driving his own companies. What he's doing is he's setting a target. He's providing the resources, people, brain power, code, whatever it might be, those resources, vast, right? Sets a target, provides the resources, eliminates the obstacles, and then has it with the intention of hitting the target. And that everybody around him, the CEO, the COO, the manager, the $10 an hour staff member, are all really, really clear, on what that target is. So, and we just did a program that we launched. We talk about it a little bit in the pre-show. But like what I did is I have a program, and it's 3 by 3 by 3, 3 events, 3 weeks, 3 clients. Real simple. Nobody that is committed is not going to be able to ding that target. And 30 participants, by the way, is the other goal, right? But it didn't fit my 3 by 3 by 3, so I left that off. But anyway, so it's just really anybody who's committed is going to be able to pull that off, right? And it's going to be, and my job is going to be to brainstorm and to provide, the target, which that's 3 by 3 by 3, provide the resources, the scripts, the landing page, the books, the preeminence, etc. Eliminate the obstacles. And really the obstacle here is them thinking about stuff that they don't need to be thinking about. So eliminate the obstacles. And to the point, we're going to be asking them to, not be drinking for the month. And again, things like eating, I want like a pre-prepared eating schedule for the week, and then ultimately for, laid out each week for the month. Because if you knew how much time you lit on fire deciding what you were going to eating, cleaning up after you eat, etc. I've talked about it at different times, right, Road Dog? So forget all of that, but just eliminating obstacle, both personally and in your business world, to be able to achieve the result. And I think that it's going to be just bloody amazing, but it's going to be really simple, and it's the target is set. So anyway, so that's my.
You've set that bar so low, dude. Like, it's so funny because I hear what you're saying with the 3 by 3, which reminds me of an SOP that I used to run inside of another agency for ad testing. But anyways, if I'm looking at the 3 by 3 by 3, it should be 3 by 3 is 9. Like, if you can't close 9 out of 30, hello, like, feel free to sales book.
Can I tell you where that comes from, though? Xerox had like the #1 sales training program. Like, I don't know if it still is, but for years and years and years. One of the things that they found is when they set low targets and expectations, like you got to make 10 calls a day instead of trying to get them to make 100 calls a day. When they set the target of 100 calls, nobody got started. When they set the target of 10, everybody got started. And by 10 a.m., they'd already hit their target. And the rest of the day, they felt successful. So therefore, they ended up making the 100 calls or whatever number the expectation was. So that's
So
where
do
it goes.
you think, Karl, as you're saying that, I'm going to jam here for a minute because in your profit acceleration software, TM, in your profit acceleration software, it's funny, you have small numbers for incremental growth, but when you add them all together, the number is overwhelming. Like, do you not think that maybe perhaps that number is so overwhelming for a prospect to see that they wouldn't be sitting there going, come on, man, like that's not real?
That
Or where you know what I mean? Like you're saying the small wins, would you unveil all of that at once?
that
Or like, you know what I
exactly.
mean?
That's why we encourage them all to do like 3 to 5%. Like we've got a simulator. It doesn't even go above 10% in any one area for that exact reason. So that's why you just. But again, how do you win a baseball game with singles? Not home run makes the 6 o'clock news. I don't think that's a thing anymore. But you know what I mean, right? Like that makes the sports highlights, right? The home runs. But reality is, if you understand baseball and you understand statistics, the base hits um, basically win baseball games. So that's the logic there. That's 3 to 5% improvements in multiple areas versus swinging for the fences in one particular area and really revolutionizing things.
Okay, so speaking of reverse engineering, because you just talked about it, talking about Twitter X, whatever they are now. And because
It's
you've
not a
said
good branding. Shoots what you just said is possibly a slight on Elon's marketing so far with X. But anyways,
well,
continue. Don't know
look,
what.
he obviously got an obsession with the letter X, right? Like, come on, man. Like, it's so funny. You would think that he'd be the happiest guy on the planet. Like, the U.S. military is basically coming out and confirming that aliens are real. Like, he's got to be pumped that there might be a way for him to get home sooner. Like, this is a
The alien just trying to get home. Shoots. That's what it is.
buddy. Like, this is next level. But that's the conversation for another day. But anyways, reverse engineering. When you always say incentives run the world. Like, can you explain that a bit further and sort of go a little deeper on that for us? Because I think a real lack is where people don't understand how important incentives can be. So
Yeah.
can you go a bit deeper?
And by the way, I say it, but let me tell you, that is Charlie Munger 101, significantly smarter than I will ever be. Maybe one day, doubt it. I'll try. But anyway, so yeah, incentives run the world. I would give you a high five on that. I agree. And look, it's pain versus pleasure. Um, Truthfully, this is going back a couple decades, but I used to teach four primary incentives, which I wasn't smart enough back then to make it that tight. But basically, rank if you're trying to motivate somebody specifically in a corporate environment, in a business environment, four things: rank, recognition, prizes, money. So rank is like manager, assistant manager, CEO, director, owner, founder, like so rank senior constable, right? Constable, senior constable. So that's rank recognition, employee of the month, social like a call out on Facebook, but recognition of, recognizing accomplishments, right? Prizes. Just think of that as a competition, right? So at the end of the month, who sold the most shampoo? Who sold the most conditioner? Who sold the most X? So you're acknowledging you're putting together a competition. So then putting a prize at the end of it could be tangible or intangible, by the way. But at the end of the day, there's a prize at the end of the month. And then money, and money is last by design, not by accident, assuming that everybody's over the poverty line. But again, money absolutely is the last. It's the first one they kind of ask about, but the last one that kind of motivates people generally. So rank, recognition, prizes, money, effectively in order. Think stock options tied to a company's long-term performance. That's how the big boys, kind of align incentives and extra hours, etc. Um, okay, it was on the pre-show we were talking about. So we just had a virtual business coaching mastery. At the end of it, we closed and we put together a program where we're basically helping people fill local live events. And what we've done again, just align the incentives where our folks want to become local legends. A local legend being defined as, somebody who no longer has to look for clients and basically has people reaching out to them. Just think Tony Robbins 101. Tony Robbins ain't making a cold call to try to get a client. I'll give you the red hot tip, right? The guy has got a list a mile long of people reaching out to him saying, "Can you fit me in?" And he's got a wait list. Dan Kennedy was exactly the same. Jay Abraham. When I did my presentation, I was just talking about how when I was setting it up, my event-based coaching company, the three biggest were Dan Kennedy, Tony Robbins, and Jay Abraham by a long way. And the thing that they all had in common, without question, was events. And then they had a little bit of a growth loop to do. Without going all into that, what we did is we basically created a program that incentives are aligned where it's a profit sharing program, real simple. They're going to do events, they're going to get clients, we're going to share in the profits from the coaching clients as opposed to them writing a check in order to participate. And I will be lighting money on fire to get it all going, including Facebook ads, etc. But at the end of the day, the expectation is that it's going to be wonderful for all. But what I'm trying to get at there, Road Dog, is that the program, and to say that we had over half of the people in the seminar apply for it, right? To put up their hand to say, I want to be in this. And the people who didn't are people that are just so busy that they wouldn't be able to, knock off an entire month to be able to, run these local events and get them going. Anywho, incentives align. We had a wonderful response, and no doubt we're going to have a wonderful result, but that will take some time. It's like many moons ago, FedEx have a semi-famous example of this, but their plane crews used to be paid per hour. And then, so moving of the boxes and whatnot from one plane to the other, it took a little bit of time. But see, they were incentivized to stay longer because they were paid per hour, right? Real simple. So Charlie Munger will say, show me the outcome, show me the incentives, and I'll show you the outcomes, right? Well, they changed their pay to all of a sudden, getting those planes out, and magically, voila, everybody, every single night, all planes were out on time, and the groundspeople were able to make more money. The company was able to make more money, and it was a really positive result, right? Or like private school and colleges are incentivized to grow their student base, right? Well, there's a private school, it's a tech school, and what they do, they charge you nothing. It's application only. You've got to be accepted, which is hard to do. But what they do is they take a percentage of your pay following graduation, right? And no doubt you can see how those the incentives are aligned, and they're going to be very incentivized to help you get a $500,000 a year job as opposed to a $150,000 a year job, whereas a normal school have absolutely no incentive based around what happens after you graduate, right? Just some really elementary, like a boss offers a raise, or an XYZ for completing a task. Employees are going to likely complete a task if they know that there's going to be public recognition, if they're going to then get promoted to manager, if they're going to get a bonus, or if they're going to get employee of the month, or they're going to win the competition, right? So again, just other incentives in and around that. And an employee of the month, I'm going to tell you, is like I said it earlier, right? But it's people are driven, especially males, very much driven by competition. So let's just call it, for lameness, employee of the month, but there's a million other ways of framing it. Very, very, just incentivizing. Just guys, women also, right? But guys generally love to compete with one another, and they want to come first, right? Just watch men jump in go-karts, right? And it can get a little messy, quickly, quite frankly. So even think it's not long ago, these bloody lockdowns, right? Whenever that was, a couple of years ago. If it's a 101, right? If the government workers, more to the point, the people making the decisions, the decision makers were penalized like the business owners, are being laid off and having their salaries cut in rather than, having a holiday at their holiday house and, chilling out at home watching TV. That would have been a very, very different result. It's a 101, right? So it's incentives. Do you know what I mean? They were not incentivized in any way. I remember back in the day, a program where it was how to form a JV with an accountant, and then we were again because the program worked and it was pretty, you know what I mean? It's a pretty impressive program. We got our hands real dirty. We're in the trenches. We closed two accounts as part of the program. You would pay X amount, but what we would do is we would close two accountants as part of the program for you. You can imagine that we were incentivized. They were incentivized to understand the program, and then we were incentivized to make sure that they got two JVs, which we ended up winning in multiple different ways post that, right, with a really happy client. So anyway, so that's yeah, incentives. You know, incentives run the world. Charlie Munger will tell you, show me the incentives. Sorry, yeah, show me the incentives, and I'll show you the results. And I think that there's amazing power in that.
Did you hear the Warren Buffett one?
What's that?
Warren Buffett said, I can stop any deficit spending in government within 5 minutes.
And how does he do it? It's going to be something
pretty easy. He said it's pretty easy. If you're running a deficit and you're not running a surplus, you cannot be considered for re-election.
So there you go. That's
imagine all these like government guys that just love staying a politician for their entire careers. It's like you can't run again unless you actually balance the books. Oh my gosh.
I don't know where I read this, but it's like the ultimate passive income play. You know what it is? Become a congressman. I mean, like how hard you just laugh. Like that is diabolical that we both just get it at that level. Like it's just, and everybody listening is saying the same thing. It's bloody scary. But anyways, let's not do the politic thing.
You don't want to go into politics? Come on, buddy. It's one of the topics we haven't discovered. Like, come on. Hey, speaking of politics, how about politics of business? So I'm gonna throw a scenario at you, and I want you to tell me if I was a a client of yours, and I'm coming to you, and I'm like, Karl, what do you think? Would you suggest that I start a business, buy a franchise? But if I'm buying a franchise, do I buy one where I have to build it from scratch, or one that's already operating? Like, kind of those three options. I know that's a big question there, bud. But there's going to be a lot of opportunities in the next few years, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that, because I think that's sort of an interesting scenario. Because it's one thing to start your business, it's another thing to look at a franchise. But again, inside of franchising, I think what people forget is you're either starting one from scratch, which I'd be curious as well what your thoughts are on how different is that from starting a franchise from scratch, from starting your own business from scratch, or buying one that's already operating.
Okay, good question. A bit to unpack there. Like not a black and white answer, as you can appreciate, right? Look, think of it if you were to buy. So, Road Dog, you're going to go buy a house, right? Here's my question: Do you buy a plot of land? Do you buy a brand new one or a 10-year-old house? Do you buy it in the suburbs? Do you buy it as close to the city as you possibly can, or do you move to an entirely new area that's kind of pristine and clean and lots of young families? Do you know what I mean? Like, no doubt you could see how there is not a right and wrong answer. There's just so many dynamics to it, and it's not that many dynamics to maybe run, buying a business, which I think I can unpack a little bit. But no doubt you could see how it's not a black and white answer. That's something you got to go to the
before you go on. Can I answer that? Because I learned once from a guy, and he said buy on a cul-de-sac with a view that's close to a school.
So
isn't that what you've done for the past how many houses?
Boom. But that's it right there, right? And then, by the way, the better the school, by the way, the more people want to live in the area. So therefore, again, it's like, so real estate, I don't know, look, here's what I would do, right? So the Eiffel Tower, I have never priced real estate close to the Eiffel Tower, but we don't need to know that it is insanely expensive. And of course, none of it is lived in. It's all Airbnb. A lot of it is Airbnb type stuff where people are in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And why? Because they want to go to the Eiffel Tower, right? So if you go out, you go at 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 4 blocks, 5. Once you get to a certain point, let's just call that point 10 blocks for the sake of the argument, the price of real estate drops dramatically because you're far enough away from the Eiffel Tower that you're no longer in the area, right? So basically, close to, you know what I mean? So what I would do is if I were to, let's say like Kelowna is where we're both at right now, right? So we're in Kelowna. If I were to become mayor, here's what I would do is I would go down. We are well known for wine. This is wine country is what we're referred to as. So I would go downtown and I would build something that was big and godly like just unbelievably big mass strips, and it would make sense that it is a wine bottle. And just picture something poured, pouring a wine bottle, pouring into red wine, pouring into a red wine cup. And then what do you think people would do? They will go downtown and guess what they will do in front of that bottle and that glass? They would take a photo. And then what would they do with that photo? They would put it on social media. And then who looks at it on social media? All of your friends, all of your family. And guess what they think? Oh, cool. That's such a, let's assume that there's a lake behind it and a good view. The real estate around that will absolutely go, assuming that it works and the people take a lot of photos and they want to be, down there and go for a walk to do. Real estate in and around that will grow at a disproportionate level to than the other areas of the city. And once you get far enough away from that, you'll get that dramatic drop off. What I'm getting at is that if I was so in this area, right, what I would do is I would build a school that is so big, that is so amazing. I'd have an ice rink, I'd have slides. Every year I would paint the slides and I'd make them bright yellow and bright red, etc. And then what happens? Parents take their kids to the park. They take a photo at the school, and what do they do with them? They put them on social media. What do people do? See them. And then all of a sudden people are like, what? I want to go to that school. So guess what happens in and around the real estate in and around that school increases at a disproportionate level than the others, right? So, and then you have like even a park. You don't have to have it as a school, even a park. We have one here, right? Road Dog, like a hop, skip, and a jump from us. I don't know what that park's called, but it is so, I remember going there taking photos and I was like, oh my gosh, it's got a water park and it's got slides and it's got this and it's got that, all kinds of land around it. The slides are always bright yellow and bright red, and it's got that massive one slide, right, like down the hill, and parents are there, and it's just like awesome. So real estate immediately around that park is increases at a disproportionate level than the other areas, right? So, anyways, a little bit off topic, but those like so that it's the any monument, right, that you would be thinking of, call it the Eiffel Tower. Real estate grows at a disproportionate level around that. So if you have a house and you have any say over your community, go to the school and speak to them and say, do you got to hire the best teachers or the worst teachers? The best teachers. If you hire the best teachers, what do you got to do? You got to pay them. If you're gonna you want to have the best park or the worst park, you want to have the best park. What's the difference between the best and the worst park? You got to make it big and you got to make it colorful and you got to spend some money, but your real estate will take a massive hit as a result of that. So a little bit off topic, but with your business, guess what? If I owned a what do you call it, like an RV place, what would I do? Right in the middle of it, I would have a pool that would beat all pools. The slide would be amazing. The diving board would be amazing. And by the way, so if undervalued asset, if I went to an RV park and it had a pool and it had a playground, but they weren't bright and they weren't awesome, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I buy that RV place and they got X amount of bookings, they're running at 60%. If I do this, I know that people are going to take photos, and I'll make sure that there is a sign very strategically positioned right in and around where those photos are taken, and it's going to be undeniable what RV park that is, and that's going to take some time, but that's what I'd be concentrating on. So I would see that as an undervalued asset, and I'd be able to take that park from 60% up to 100%. A little bit off topic there, but hopefully that provides you guys some, maybe a look into the way you could be thinking about business, real estate, etc. But let me get directly to the question. Would I start a business? Would I buy a franchise? Starting from scratch is never a good idea. What you really got to do, think retail. If you were to buy something, do you want to buy retail or do you want to buy wholesale? or do you want to buy direct from the manufacturer? Well, you're basically, if you start your own company from scratch, you're buying all your clients at full retail, probably full retail plus, call it 20%. So it can be expensive. Most people think it's expensive to buy a company, but in actual fact, it's way more expensive to start from scratch. A franchise, generally speaking, you asked about that, and it's important. So a franchise generally is really good to get started. You've got a community, you've got a system, you've got a framework. But then speak to a franchisee, like make sure, like a franchise, you've got to provide disclosure. And on that disclosure, it's got to have a list of the current franchisees, and it's also got to have a list of past franchisees that have closed their franchises. Call all of them, right? And ask. But here's what happens. You buy the franchise and it's fabulous for 18 months. And then after that, what happens is there's a lot of restrictions. You can't advertise here. You can't do this. You can't do that. Think of McDonald's, right? You can't put lettuce on the burgers, back in the day, if you've seen the movie Founder, right? You can't sell chicken. You can't sell corn on the cob. You can't put a, like not a slot machine, but a jukebox, right? You couldn't have one of those out the front, which is in the movie. So you can't do all these things, and that can restrict trade, that can restrict growth. And that's sometimes because you're like, you know what? I know in my area with this business, with my clientele, the way I'm doing it, if I could add this is, I could make my business that much better. Well, franchising, you'd have to get approval for that. You might not get it. That can become very frustrating. And I'll let you guess, if you're a frustrated business owner, that every time you put something to the boss or to that head office, they say no, 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 that might piss you off, right? So that's where a franchise could go a little swirly. But if you had a franchise and you were going to buy one, again, speaking to the owner and, what's the relationship with head office? And when you go to them with, different options, what are they coming back at? If you're going to buy a franchise, you're probably going to find that the person you'd buy it from would have three. So like, as an example, I would never do Subway in a million years. But if I were to do Subway, I would own three of them within an hour, like all within about 30 minutes of driving of one another. And the reason I'd want that is I would have one lot of staff, one lot of inventory, one payroll that would manage all three locations. Because if you only own one Subway, basically you're making Subway sandwiches for a living. If you own three of them, you've got a chance at building an asset and something that you could sell and something that can do well without you there, putting the lettuce on the bun. So that is something to be thinking about. So when you buy a franchise, one of the things I'd want to know who are the closest franchisees around me, and if there's an open territory, I want first right of refusal on that extra area. And then if you're buying an existing, which the best roadmap, generally speaking, is to buy an existing company that is not, I kind of defined it earlier with the RV park, right? Where I go in and there's opportunity. I mean, I don't want to go, if I go to an RV park and it's got 100% capacity, do I want to buy it? And the answer is probably a hard no. Why? Because I'm going to be buying it there's no room to grow. I want to walk in and see an RV park that is undervalued, that I can see all kinds of potential, but these guys are just running it into the ground because they don't know what they're doing. They've lost their passion. They've lost their focus. The kids got too old and now they're not helping them out. You know what I mean? It all just became too hard. So I want it like 25% full. And then I got 75% room to grow when I do my slide, when I do the diving board, when I spruce everything up and put my new signage up, right? And I get good at marketing. So that's the kind of thing that, there is here's what I want to say. There is an opportunity right now, like never before, where baby boomers are hitting the age where they're over it. The businesses are sliding in the wrong direction. They really don't care anymore because they made the money. The kids don't want to take them over. And they're basically just going to run them literally to the point where they no longer operate. And they're cool with that. The opportunity to go in and advance those companies very easily with a small amount of tech, a small amount of marketing, a small amount of, the paint job for the RV park, and really turn that into a thriving business would be unbelievable. Like, when do most businesses fail? In the first two, look at the stats. The first 5 years, 90% of them are gone. In 2 years, 50% of them are gone. Why is that? Because they started them from scratch, right? So new businesses fall over within 2 years. So what if you found a business that was 5 years old? You've missed that slippery slope period where they're still standing. They might not be thriving. They might not be doing unbelievably, but there's a wicked opportunity to take over. Again, a little bit of tech, a little bit of operations, a little bit of marketing, and you could take that business from, let's just say, netting 250 grand a year to netting $1 million reasonably quickly without a huge amount of staff, overhead, etc. So that's a real opportunity. And shoots, and so look, two things. If I want to buy a company and I want to start a company, like right now, one of the things we own, marketingplan.com, right? I think I'm going to, so we're looking at doing a reasonable size play with marketingplan.com. There's two things that I need before I will do it, before I'll pull the trigger, before I'm going to do something, right? Um, a good jockey, so somebody to run it, who's going to drive it, who's highly passionate and incentivized times 10. So I need a good jockey, and then also a moat, right? I need a moat, right? You guys know what a moat is? Like make it very difficult for someone else to get into. So difficult to enter and a competitive advantage that I know others don't have, right? So like with focus.com, we've got the software where I know that, like, we went into the software business because I just know that anybody could become a business coach. But in order to build software, if you didn't have like $1 million at the absolute bare bones minimum, there's no way that you're building anything that looks like what we have got. No, and by the way, you need 3 years to be able to work it all out, right? So very difficult to enter, and we've got a competitive advantage. So if you're starting a company, if you're buying a company, these are the types of things I'm looking for. Like a moat in the RV park that I talked about could be location, because these guys have already got it. It might, like, you might not be able to buy real estate in that area and build an RV park for a bunch of different regulation reasons, but they've been there for 15 years. So the moat, in some cases, like, it could be a variety of different things, but a location on the RV park, that's the kind of thing that I would be looking at if I was going to invest in a business like that. So shoots, long answer. But that's some of the things that I'd be thinking about. Did I answer the question? You asked something about
Yeah,
franchising.
I actually want to follow up on that moat one before we wrap, but twofold.
Yeah.
I love putting you on the spot, bud. I think it just makes me feel so good. Moat, what's the biggest moat a business coach can have? Like, what's their, I guess, okay, let's just do that. And then what's the biggest moat you have with focus.com?
Yeah, nice. The moat for focus.com is the software, profit acceleration software, and digital acceleration software, and mental acceleration software will be built at some stage. You know what I mean? It's sitting there on spreadsheets right now. But so that's the moat there. A business coach, frankly, I talked about it earlier. Local legends. You want to have a moat for your business coaching. Basically be the, again, if when you go to the shopping mall, and I, again, this used to happen, right? But I go to the shopping mall, and look, Tony Robbins will tell you when he goes out in public, he gets stopped every single day where somebody will stop him and go, I just needed to say thank you, you changed my life. He gets that, like that, you know what I mean? Just it's well and truly out there, where he talked about it a lot. When you go to the local shopping mall, or you go to the local baseball game, or you go to the local public thingy, and people stop you and talk about how you changed the face of their business because they attended one of your events, that's when you got yourself a moat, right? So again, I would go, you got to be local live events, and of course results, right? You can't just do the events and then not follow through. You got to have the clients and the testimonials and the runs on the board, which then become stories that you then use in your events, right? Because you're talking about, oh, I remember working with John, he owned the painting company and this is where he started. These are the challenges that he had. These are the three things that we put in place. And the results went from, he was losing 250 grand when I met him, that he netted $1 million a year within 18 months of, becoming to one of my events. Right. So the moat is results. And that's the moat that Tony Robbins has got. And not to mention the exposure, which unfortunately takes some time. But if you want to build a moat around business coaching with 1,000,000% certainty, what you do is local live events, and bloody do them well. Like when people leave, what they say is, wow, that person, that guy, that gal really over delivered, right? Both in education, and entertainment. You got to make it fun. And that doesn't mean you need to put a clown suit and, honk horns. What we're talking about, just funny engagement back and forth, making fun of yourself, a little bit of music, getting people up, making them comfortable, engaging with one another and not making it awkward. And then, you know what I mean? Encouraging them, like, you got this, move around the room, exchange, handshakes and, business cards if that's your thing. You know what I mean? But that's the answer to that. Shoots results, man. And local live events is the best
So
moat.
you got me thinking on that too, though, right? Because it's like I think the biggest thing that I think a lot of coaches, a lot of people generally do, is they almost hide, right? Like the only way you're going to become a local legend is if people can recognize you, as you say, and just doing events isn't going to be enough. Why do you think most coaches are so scared to, because Gary Vee's like, I give it all away for free because I know that 98% of you won't do anything with it. But at the same time,
Yep.
guess what? You all know Gary Vee, right?
Yep.
So what do you think the number one reason is? And I know it's fear, but like I'm hoping you can drill down a bit more. Why aren't coaches just going on to Facebook and just doing more lives and just doing video ads and doing stuff like that and just sharing more value to help more people? Like, what do you think is holding them back?
With the fear of sounding overconfident, and humility is the ultimate virtue. I know the answer. It is your marketing is not your problem. Your problem is that you're afraid to be seen. Just drop the mic. I'm telling you, it is. And by the way, okay, so let me go deeper there. What did you just say a minute ago? You're like it's fear, right? But you know what it really is? It's comfort. Because you see, they're in their comfort, so they're fearful of leaving their comfort, right? To again pick up the phone, make the cold call, shake the hand, kiss the baby, work with the client, do the, you know what I mean? Like it's intimidating to say that I am going to put on a local live event at the yacht club and then show up fully not knowing if anybody will bloody come. And then if only one person, two people come, how does that make you look? And frankly, that is fearful. And it is incredible. It is out of your comfort zone, my comfort zone, everybody, Tony Robbins's comfort zone, right? Tony giving Tony let's plugs today. But you know what I mean? But you just gotta, what do you gotta do, Shoots? You gotta put yourself out there. You gotta have a red hot crack. You gotta accept, you gotta be all in for a decade and accept that. That's why we say you got to do 10 events. You can't do one event and tell me how it went. It's not that I don't care, but it's completely irrelevant. Until you've done 10, you haven't done anything, quite frankly, right? Like you got to do your 10. And by the way, so you go, why are we doing 3+3, 3x3x3? Because I want think of a snowball. I want the snowball to roll and then you know what I mean? Once the snowball is formed, it's easy. My 10-year-old daughter could build a killer snowball, but it's getting it going. Or think of, the snowman, right? Like that level of snowball. It's the getting the initial bit together, but then you just got to roll it and roll it and roll it and roll it and roll it. And I don't know how impressive that example was, but you know what I mean? Like that's what you got to do. You got to get that snowball rolling. And then it takes shape. You just got to push it down the hill and it goes. So example of that again. So when you do a local live event, what I always did, and I've said this 1,000 times, but I'll continue to say it, and it's just reality, is that I tried to get 2 referrals per person. Why? Filling the damn next event was by far the biggest challenge that I had. It's painful. So I was never worried about the money and all, and the clients and the results and everything would all fall into place if I could get 2 referrals per person. So if I do 1 event, 2 events, 3 events, I've got 60 referrals for my 4th event. And then I got 80, and then I got 100, and then I got 120, and then I got 140, and then I eventually have 2,000. Like so now lead generation becomes significantly easier because, and this is how you become a local legend. Like when I met my wife, the true story, million, not an ounce of exaggeration. I said, I met her, we were at a bar, we were playing pool, to do. And then I was like, hey, I could use them. I run these local live events. If you could come and, help me out. Of course, I'm hitting on her, right? But I'm like, hey, that would be really cool. And she's like, not really understanding what she's walking into and what this might look like. But honestly, and this is a long time ago. And I don't remember exact numbers, but it looked a lot like I had 20 chairs and like 35. There was honest standing room only, and there was people waiting. It's like, hang on, you just got to wait, and we got to get chairs, and we got to do this, and we got to do that. We got to shuffle this, shuffle that. There's like, there's one table, and like there's 2 rows deep. Like, frankly, it looked ridiculous, right? And then, by the way, still not enough chairs. It was crazy. And she's like, who is this guy? Right? And here we are, married many years later, right? So, and by the way, the exact thing with a buddy of ours, right? Better did an event with him in Seattle. And by the way, we pulled this one like less than a week. Everything came together just because it had to, because of, without some other dynamics, had to be pulled together in like record time, like days. And same thing, we were over full, people coming everywhere. So yeah, so just the local, getting the, I don't even know where I was going with that, but
I don't know. You sort of went down this weird rabbit hole. All I'm going to add to it is by putting yourself out there, and by doing that, I got into a call last week that couldn't make the event, by the way, and he's like, "Man, I feel like I know you already from the videos and everything else you've been posting." Like, right, like right there, it's so much easier because now you're viewed completely differently. So, and by the way, folks, right, vulnerability moment 101 here with the road dog. So I had an absolute tech fail last week for my live event, like horrific, right? Like amateur hour called, like what is happening? And literally had one guy show up to my event. 21 people were supposed to be there. One. Well, guess what? That one guy asked me for a proposal. He wants to work with me. So it doesn't matter if you only have one. Do the best dang presentation that you can do and wow the heck out of them and make the best out of the worst. If I could close one new client a week, if you could close one new client a week, would that not be worth your while? Like, would that not just change the game? So why are you so worried about that? Just go and do the best for whoever's in the room. So there you go. Lemonade out of lemons, Karl. There you go, bud.
That is it. What is my? I don't know if my dad always says I made chicken salad out of chicken shit. So
there you go. There you go. Right?
Oh man,
it was Casey Printers that said that, the former starting quarterback for the BC Lions, and look at him now, thriving, doing absolutely nothing with his career. So there you go, Shoots. All right. On that note, we'll just wrap this up. But what's the one thing? Pick one thing and one thing only, and do it in under 30 seconds. No rabbit holes.
No rabbit hole. I did a couple rabbit holes today. Okay, franchise versus starting a company. Just want to make sure again. The answer is that it's not a black and white. It is not a right and wrong answer. But there is a huge opportunity to understand. Like, okay, I think last week or the week before we talked about acquisition. The tests, like Elon didn't build Tesla, he acquired it. He didn't build Twitter, he acquired it. Acquisition, Instagram, Zuck didn't bring it or didn't build it, right? He acquired it. WhatsApp, he acquired it. The biggest companies, the biggest players, the entire venture capital, the richest people in the world are venture capitalists, right? So they build companies, invest in companies, and build companies, and help them, help the founders build them. You should understand. Don't think that starting a company is less risky than buying a company. Could be a grave error, my man. So there you go. So that's the one thing, is acquisition / do your homework on that one and understand the dynamics. Like, would you start a franchise? Would you start a company? Would you buy an established one? Would you buy a franchise with like, again, I wouldn't buy Subway if I couldn't buy 3 of them, type of thing, or I wouldn't start a Subway if I didn't have first right of refusal on the 2 territories right close to me. And the reason is because I want to own multiple businesses in a small area, but have one because the thing's going to put you out of business is the dynamics of the company, the moving parts. If you've got one lot of payroll, one lot of inventory, one lot of staff, etc., it's going to make it so much easier for you to grow your company. And then, so when the chiropractor decides that he wants to expand his company, they go to another, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, we'll go to another city. Maybe that's a bad example, but the RV park wants to open another RV park. Where do they go? To another city, another state. Answer the question, is that a good idea? There are nuances, right? But my heavens, I would highly, highly, highly recommend they do not do that, So anyways, I hope that helps you. So that's my answer.
Well, I was going to just say, well, how about just plan your live event? How about that? How about just plan a live event this week? Just do that, right? Put it on the calendar. Make it happen. And remember, folks, you heard it here first. Not only will your live events get you clients, but they could get you married. So there you go, bud.
Boom.
There you go. The ultimate dating hack that you didn't even know you had up your sleeve as a business coach and becoming a local legend, folks. Anyways, that is
man. If you were single, it might not be a bad way to. You start running local live events, you become a local legend. I'll let you decide if that's a good idea for your dating life. So
there's so many rabbit holes that we are not going to go down right now with that. That would be deadly. Anyways, folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the dating coach himself, King Karl. And if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show additional dating tips and the profit acceleration software or all the things, local legends program, flash coaching, all of these things, go to focus.com and just subscribe at least to Karl's daily newsletter. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone you think might make a great coach. And of course, we'd appreciate if you'd rate the episode, as we know that iTunes, Spotify, and the like all put a heavy amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And that is it for another week. And we will see you on the next episode. And remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.